everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and it's time for another installment of the hashtag AJOS Abstract August, another abstract piece for August 2020, brought to you by Art Joy of Sharing Art Community on Facebook. So today's prompt is mirrored. And I was thinking about that, and I decided to take it pretty literally. So this is more of abstract expressionism than just plain abstract, because it does have images in which you can recognize what they are, but they're very abstracted. So this is an art journal page. I'm making it in an art journal that I made a couple years ago that has a few extra pages left at the back. They're made out of junk mail from election mail, which I'm sure I'm about to get a bunch more of that stuff. So wasteful. Just these little card things that come in the mail. Vote for this person, vote for that person, and I make junk journals out of them, which are true junk journals. So I started with gold and white gesso over my page, and then I wanted to add some color and some texture, so I decided to use a 2-inch brayer with a few different colors to fill up my background. I started with Titan Buff. I moved to Naples Yellow, which is really, to me, a neutral, even though it's yellow. It's a really cool color. I really like Naples Yellow a lot. These are all the medium body, kind of pretty much student grade Liquitex basics paints. But Amsterdam is kind of the same type of a thing. If you're in a different country, you can probably access Amsterdam more easily. Then I think I moved to an umber color. I can't really read what that one is. I keep getting all my siennas and umbers mixed up. I've really got to figure it out. But it's a light brown. We'll just say it's light brown. And then I switched over to cerulean blue, which is a really pretty color of blue to finish off my brayering. And I'm kind of leaving a light area in the upper right hand corner, just sort of, while still kind of blending it in. And when you brayer the colors like this with the paint, it gives kind of a texture, kind of a granulated texture. Plus you get layers of color, and I just think it's really interesting, especially when you're doing abstract. So I dried that up really good with my heat tool just to get everything dried down. And then I'm going to put a rectangular piece of gel print. This is one of those gel prints where there's just a little bit of stuff left on the plate, and you want to clean it up before you start to, move to the next print. And so I picked it up with that same Naples yellow, and it has little speckles of paint in it that were left on the plate. But they're always, those kind of almost nothing prints are usually pretty interesting to me. There is a little bit of a circle down at the bottom. There was something that was that shape on the plate. So I made that into a rectangle, and that's going to be my mirror. I'm taking it literally. I'm actually making a mirror. Another idea would be to make mirrored things on your piece. If there's a circle over here, there's a circle over there. If there's a triangle over here, there's a triangle over there. That's another take on mirrored, but I just went with the literal interpretation. So now I have some medium gray paint, and I'm kind of adding in a little bit of shadow around my mirror with that, and adding it in a few other places. I also have some almost dried up Viridian paint, and I'm going to use a little bit of that too. I'm using a flat brush. I've noticed when I've been watching different abstract acrylic painters, they really seem to like a flat brush, where I'm used to using a round brush or an angled brush. Flat brushes seem to be, big flat brushes seem to be what a few of the people that I enjoy watching are using. So that Viridian on the palette was left over from a previous project. I'm just adding a little bit of that. It's almost like dry brushing. There is a lot of texture on this. Between the gesso and the brayering, there's a lot of texture. So then I am now going to do my abstracted figures. you can tell that it's supposed to be a figure, but it doesn't have any features. It's got a head, it's got a body, doesn't really have any definition of arms or legs. It's just um, a real basic silhouette. And I'm putting one in front of the mirror, and then I'm making the mirrored image there as well in the mirror, so that you get the idea that it's a mirror, it's mirrored. Otherwise, you might think it's a window, which windows sometimes act like mirrors too, so I guess it could be, but there's nothing else there, so nothing else must be behind the person because nothing else is reflected. I also added a little bit of Titan buff up in the corner of the mirror, and trying to give a light source. So the light is going to be on the left-hand side in the upper left, shining down to the right corner. I mean, yeah, that's what I said. Upper left down to right, bottom right corner is going to be how my light is. And that's something that you need to think about when you're doing something like this. Because if you put the light source if you put a bright spot on the right-hand side of the mirror, but then you make the figures have a reflection of light on the left-hand side, then that's not correct. That's just one of those little weird things that we sometimes think about. So now I'm using a color called Payne's Gray. It's a very, very dark blue, and I've switched over to media fluid paints from DecoArt. These I like to paint with if I'm actually going to do an acrylic painting, which is what I'm doing. So this one, however, is very dried up and kind of gloppy, and I'm not getting a real smooth finish with it. I'm going to need to go over it again. But I'm planning on adding some other colors too, so I'm not too worried about that. So then if you think about a reflection is just a lighter version of the thing it's reflecting, right? And sometimes it might be a little bit smaller or a little bit larger depending on what type of mirror it is, what it's reflecting in. You know, sometimes the objects seem closer than they appear closer than they are, or something like that. It just depends. I am going to continue the body all the way down because I also was kind of thinking about a ghost image, but on that bottom part where the wall is, I'm really lightening it up a lot with a baby wipe so that the full strength is on the mirror, but then there's like this little ghosty reflection as well. This piece was actually inspired by something I saw on Pinterest. I didn't make it exactly the same, but the idea of the really generic person being reflected was something that I saw on Pinterest. I've been searching abstract art on Pinterest so that I can continue to be inspired by this challenge. So then I wanted to just kind of, everything was looking really bland, and I wanted to pump it up with a lot of bright color, which I'm a bright color person, so I didn't want to leave it bland. So I got out Diaralyde yellow. That might be how you say it. Diaralyde, something like that. And then some more Titan buff, and I'm just brightening up the colors. That yellow is a really pretty color. And then I'm also adding this Titan buff with a little bit of yellow as this now reflection, a heavy reflection from this really bright light source that's coming from the upper left side and shining down onto the person and therefore also onto the reflection. There's a little bit of a hint of an arm as if the person is holding their hands in front of themselves like some people sometimes do. So there's like a little bit of bump and you can see a slight turn towards the mirror with an angle on the jaw, sort of. But it's very generic. It's very, It's not obvious, I guess, is what I'm saying. So then I just continued to mess around with color. I I tried some more of that Diaralyde yellow mixed with the Titan Buff, which made a very pale yellow. And then I'm looking for some other colors to bring in. I want something to be bright. And so I pick I think this is cyan, primary cyan blue, mixed with the Titan Buff paint. Adding it here and there. This will be considered mixed media eventually because I'm going to use some pencils, but right now I'm just painting with acrylic paints. You don't see me do that very often, do you? Here we go. Here's the color, the punch of color that I needed. Some orange. This is cadmium orange hue. Still in the Deco Art media fluid paints, which are my favorite for painting. I also like acrylic inks. So I guess I prefer a thinner paint, you know, a fluid paint over a heavy body paint. It's just a personal preference thing. I added some little highlights. I decided maybe that section down at the bottom might be wainscoting or something like that. And I just wanted some vertical lines, something to make this more interesting. It was just looking pretty boring. Then I added in some green. I can't remember what color that is right now, but threw some of that on there. This is mostly kind of like mark making, really, because I'm making lines and shapes into the background to make it less, to break it up a little bit and make it less boring. I guess I decided I wanted some more of that blue color. This paint really, really, really goes a long way. You just need a dot. Just a dot. It's very highly pigmented. That's my Payne's Gray again, and yeah, as you can see, it's gloppy. It's very gloppy. I like that color though. I like to use it in place of black. It's almost black, but not quite. It's blue. Why it's called Payne's Gray if it's blue, I don't know. I've always wondered that. It's a weird thing. Made some little marks with my brush, adding some more shadow around the mirror. Adding a little bit of that Payne's Gray into the reflection, just a tiny bit. And the brush is very dry. There's not much on it, but just darkening it up in a few areas. Playing around. So I hope you guys have been enjoying Abstract August. If you've been making art, make sure that you use the hashtag AJOS Abstract August when you post it anywhere on social media so that we can find it. And there's still half a month to go, more than a half a month. So you guys can still play. Even if you just do one piece, it's really cool. Be sure you give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment or question below, and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on your notification bells. And of course, you can pin this on Pinterest or Facebook. All those things help my channel grow by helping other people who might be interested in my content find it. because that's the tricky part on YouTube, is finding the content that you want to watch. If you're not sure what to search for, then you may not find what you want. But when somebody recommends, that always helps. So now I'm just doing a tiny bit of touch up with the very tips of my brush. I didn't really want to move away from the brush because I like this loose, kind of scratchy application that I'm getting with over this braided background. Decided to add a little bit of depth down at the bottom. Draws your eye down a little bit. So then I think, well, I could probably get the same type of a scratchy application if I use my Stabilo Woodies, because they come out like that anyway. They come out like crayons. If you don't activate them with water, they stay like that. So I decided to do some more different color additions with the Stabilo Woodies. These are designed for kids, I think. They're fat, big fat pencil crayons, but they are water soluble, highly water soluble, like the Stabilo All pencil that you see a lot of people using. If it touches water, it reacts very quickly. But if you apply them like this and you don't activate them, then they just look like crayons. So that's what I decided to do. Added some pink, I added some yellow, adding some more lines and hash marks and stuff in just for interest on the page. And more bright color. That's that red one. I went over the orange. Makes it more interesting, I think. Just makes it more interesting. And fun. I enjoy doing it. Doing this type of thing. Here's where I'm making some hash marks with a purple or magenta, maybe. It writes really well over acrylic paint. There's no problem with writing over acrylic paint with this type of a product. Whereas sometimes there is, some things don't want to write over acrylic. Like gel pens. Gel pens don't like it. I even got the black one out. Added a little bit more deep color here and there. You can also slightly blend them with your finger. They're just a little bit waxy, gooey, something, just a tiny bit. So yeah, that's it for mirrored, which is like, I don't know, maybe the 12th prompt, maybe. And that's it for me for today. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.